There are not a lot of people who cover NBA and boxing, so I had to find someone else who does. Raheem, they don't allow people at big outlets to cover boxing like that, as you know.
Y- Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, honestly, boxing coverage right now is basically guys on YouTube.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
that's
seriously.
the biggest. Yeah, it's like honestly, like even like I mean, you look at guys who were at big outlets. You look at like a Dan Raphael, like he's doing his own thing now.
Yeah,
So it's just like, yeah, it's not many people at all.
yeah. But we're here. We're gonna talk some boxing later. We'll get to some NBA stuff first. This is Raheem Palmer. You know him from the Ringer, Ringer Gambling Show feed. Are you doing the Rashadamas show this year?
No, we aren't. Right now we just have East Coast bias. That's the main thing. And then I think me and Anthony DeMundo, from formerly from the Action Network, just like
Yeah.
me, we had a show on Tuesdays. But I mean, who knows? I mean, that show was over actually. So right now it's just East Coast bias.
Just East Coast bias. Yeah, the Ringer has a propensity to be stealing action, just picking off Action Network guys, which is funny. As somebody who currently works at Action. Raheem, let's get into the NBA stuff. All-Star
Mhm.
game just concluded this weekend, and a lot of people are pissed off. A lot of people are pissed off, not just about the All-Star game, but also the NBA product as a whole. And what I want to throw at you, because I like the way you think. A lot of people, some people, some people, I guess, like they really get charged up about some of the shit you say, but I like that a lot.
Mhm.
And what I want to throw at you is just your thoughts right now on the NBA product as a whole. It doesn't have to be All Star related. And do you feel like the discussion about the NBA having a problem for its viewership is overblown, or are parts of that justified right now?
I think part of it is overblown, but part of it is justified. I mean, look, it just feels like they've made the NBA regular season meaningless to the average fan. It's like anytime you it's like we're at the point now where it's just like unless you're a hardcore NBA fan, it's hard to get up for, a Wednesday night or a Friday night slate. It just really is. Um just because there's no stakes and like I like the in-season tournament. I thought the in-season tournament is great. I think that was a step in the right direction. But I think they need to move that around a bit. Like the in-season tournament stuff should be happening right now, right after the Super Bowl.
That's
Like we
interesting.
should, yeah. Like if you like, imagine if instead of All Star game, we had the in-season tournament finals at that point in time.
I was saying it should lead up to Christmas because that's when it
Hmm.
feels like the NBA gets going. I kind of think your idea might work better
Hmm.
because now is when the NBA needs to like push the pedal to the metal, so to speak, because the NFL is over.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting who I heard made this point, but they just kind of look at the All-Star game and it's like, all right, this comes the week after the Super Bowl ends, and this is kind of the show that you get. So and
Yeah.
now we're at the point where the regular season is supposed to take over. So it's weird. Like I've talked about this before here, where we talked about does the NBA have a legitimate problem in terms of its viewership? Because there are a couple different things here, and I want to ask you about this. There are a lot of people who are casual NBA fans who complain that there are just too many three pointers, like for example. And then there are other people who are like really in the weeds who will be like, actually, no. And they'll pull up the numbers and explain to you why this is the case, why, even though it looks like everyone's playing the same, they're not, why things that people think they believe are not true. But what I would say to that is that's part of the problem because I don't think casuals are trying to hear that shit, right or wrong. I think casual observers just kind of see what they see, and ultimately they're going to determine whether or not they want to watch something. And I don't know if the stats are going to nudge them in the other direction.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the casuals who are saying too many threes, they just not they just aren't NBA fans at the end of the day. They're
Yeah.
not NBA fans and they're just making up any reason to justify why they won't watch. And that's fine. I think what it comes down to for most casual fans is that the season is too long and there's no stakes. And when you like delegitimize the regular season and you make it so that it doesn't matter, I think the players have just preached that to us the last 10, 15 years. Like, honestly, I've gotten to the point now where I don't even want to pay to go to a regular season game.
I don't.
Because I know that if I pay to go to a regular season game, the star who I want to see might sit out.
Right. Yes.
And that's scary for me. Like, to me, I like there wasn't a past. Like, when I was growing up, I never had to worry about Allen Iverson. Just, you know what, I don't feel like playing today,
Right.
or I'm load managed. I never had to worry about that. But now, if I go to a game, I have to worry about. That's something I have to think about. So to me, it's just we're at a point where it's just like, how can I really get that excited? Like, how many times do you cut on? And I think, if you're an NBA fan, you got to have NBA League Pass, because how many times do you cut on the ESPN game on a Wednesday night or Friday night, or the TNT game, and the stars aren't playing? So
Right.
to me, that hurts the NBA more than anything. But at the end of the day, the NBA, they got their TV money. They're going to be on. They went with Amazon next year. They got their TV money. So I don't think they're too impacted by all of this discussions, because at the end of the day, even like TNT was so angry about losing the NBA that they sued the NBA. They had to work out a compromise. So these networks are still paying for it.
Yeah. But I think the NBA has to care. They do care. They care somewhat, because I think the availability concerns, like that's something to me, like, I think all sides could agree on. As somebody who plays fantasy basketball, like, I'm in tune with the alerts, and every day the list comes out. Like, Underdog Fantasy actually does a good job with this, where at 3 p.m. Eastern time, they'll put out, all right, here's who's probable, here's who's questionable, here's who's doubtful. And the list is always very long. And it always includes several star players: Giannis, Anthony Edwards, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Luka, and, so on and so forth, Trae Young. And I think that's a real problem too. Like, I've had somebody tell me, like, yo, I haven't been to an NBA game before. Should I go? And then I'm like, who do you want to see? Because if you're trying to see LeBron James, they might not play. If you're trying to see Nikola Jokic, chances are he'll play. But for the most part, like, everyone's questionable all the time.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal. And I think I came up with some suggestions a while back. I was saying how I just felt like we almost need to involve point differential and playoff standings.
Now we're talking.
Because it's just like,
shit right here.
we got to do something to make these games really, really matter, and something to enforce people to, like. That's what I love about the in-season tournament. They had to play those games into the final second because point differential mattered. And it's just like, when I said that on Twitter a while back, people were like, oh yeah, so you want these people going all out for meaningless games? Yes, I want them to play basketball. That's their job. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Yeah, ultimately, but you and I are a little more in tune than the average person, probably a lot more in tune than the average person is with international basketball, for example. And in international basketball, that stuff matters. And FIBA, the final qualifiers are actually going to be this week going into next week for who's going to go to the Eurobasket, AmeriCup, Afrobasket, and the Asian Cup. And the tournaments are all going to be determined by point differential in a lot of different tiebreaker instances. And I feel like if the NBA would incorporate that, like they do even in not just international basketball, but Euro League and all these different Euro Cup, like all these different competitions overseas, you see guys playing at the end. First of all, you see deeper rotations too, but you see guys playing at the end, and they're playing hard. And ultimately, like that's what matters, is our guys playing consistently? Are they playing hard? Adam Silver even threw out 10-minute quarters, which I'm like, that'll mess with the record books, but God, that will make for a better product. The NBA is the only league that does 12-minute quarters.
The CBA does it too.
And the CBA,
other than they're the only two. Everybody else, it's all 10-minute quarters. And you know what? I think my problem with the NBA viewing experience is that there's way too many stoppages.
Yes.
Like, it feels like you're watching, like, between the commercials, between the reviews, it's just, these games take forever. And you're like, what the hell? So it's just like, even with 10-minute quarters, if you're going to have that many stoppages, it's just like, all right, what the hell? So it's just, I don't know if that fixes it as much as, we thought it would. They have to, like, get rid of some of these reviews. I think it's a net negative for the league.
I agree. I don't want a 2.5 hour experience to look like it's about to be under that, and then the last minute and a half takes 20 minutes, which has literally happened before, which happens every week. It feels
Mhm.
like. Questions, comments welcomed at all times, especially super chats. Ryan, thank you for joining. There needs to be a higher incentive to compete in the regular season, maybe a first round bye or better home court advantage, like 4 straight home games to start a series. I like the extreme idea, but like, I mean, listen, they won't do this, but 4 straight home games to start a series. I mean, that would incentivize people to actually, approach this differently, is what I would say to that. So I get the thinking.
Yeah, I love the extreme nature. I really do. I actually think they should get rid of East versus West. I think we should go to the best 16 teams to make the playoffs.
Mm,
And I think that's that will even things up as far as having the best 16 teams there. But I agree with you. Like I think point differentials should determine home court advantage,
I
and
agree with
not the
that.
record. And then also I agree. I mean, like maybe you have the first 3 games at home for the team who has home court advantage. Like I just like you got to do something. Like I hate that we have to come up with all of these gimmicks to get guys to play basketball, but at this point in time, the money is just too great.
The money has never been crazier. This is ultimately why I think Jimmy Butler has decided to continue playing, and made a fuss about his last contract, because I actually think he was going to retire after this last contract, and then he saw what Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and some of these other dudes got, and he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, like I could get one more contract, like one more max contract," which he got, and this is again, this is just a further detailing of the separation between the haves and the have-nots, which in this country have never been more dramatic. I think in the country, it's sort of reflective of that in the NBA as well, because mid-level guys. I mean, the fact that Tyus Jones had to take a shitty contract in his last deal, you're going to see more of that. Like more legitimately good role players have to sign for like veteran minimum or taxpayer mid-level exceptions and all these different things, and the max contracts are just going to get more and more absurd.
Mhm.
So there's that. Do you have any All-Star weekend thoughts while we're here?
I didn't watch a single second of All Star
Well, there's the
weekend.
All-Star weekend thought. Yeah. I mean, look.
I literally went grocery shopping during the All Star game.
Adjusting to West Coast life, because a lot of people were just pissed off about it. I saw it.
Mhm.
I usually skip the All-Star game itself.
Mhm.
This year, I was at least curious, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you've heard Kevin Hart just kind of ruined the whole thing. So
Oh
there
my
was
god,
that.
it's so crazy. I've blocked. The only thing I saw from All Star Weekend was the Mac McClung dunks and the Stephon Castle dunks,
Yeah.
and I saw that just on social media, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is great. And I saved 3 hours of my life from watching that and the 3 point contest and the skills contest by watching the best parts of All Star Weekend within one social media clip. Like that literally, and I think that's what the kids are actually doing now. Like the kids are actually consuming more NBA through social media than they are actually watching the games.
Do you think that's a problem? Like, do you think, because we're hearing more people say, "Hey," and shit, even I've done this. Like, if I had
Mhm.
to do some quick research, because yeah, I want to watch games, but at the same time, I cover a lot of different things, do a lot of different things. I don't have time to watch every single game. There are
Yeah.
people who do front to back and who like pause and take notes, pause and take notes, pause and take notes. And the YouTube highlights, the supercuts, like have everything you kind of need there. Do you think that's an issue? That because we talk about the ratings dropping,
Mhm.
and that's part of it, but people are still consuming the NBA. So ultimately, is it a bad thing?
I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem I have is that it feels like the NBA's media partners aren't doing a good job at selling the game of basketball.
Mm.
Like, look at TNT. And I mean, look, everybody was talking about how they hated they love inside the NBA, and you know they were sad that NBA is leaving Turner. But you turn on inside the NBA, and you got Shaq and you got Barkley talking about how the game is trash now. Like that's crazy to me, and it just feels like we've reached a point now where you got the media partners, basically telling us that basketball was better 30 years ago, And it feels like people are more interested in transactions and free agency than the actual game of basketball. So I just think the actual media partners, the people who work with the NBA, like they got to be better for the game. Like you've never cut on NFL on Fox or NFL on CBS and hear, Michael Irvin or Terry Bradshaw telling you that Joe Montana is better than Patrick Mahomes. You don't hear that.
Right.
Like we appreciate Patrick Mahomes for what he is. Like it's not like people telling us, "Oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he'd suck in 1983."
I think I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I also think I don't mind that Charles Barkley and Shaq do that if they're being honest, but admittedly, yes, it would probably a lot of other people would hear that and be like, yeah, you know what, they're right. This product sucks. Then why do I have to watch it? The NBA shoots itself in the foot in that way. I do think some of their complaints, like there could be some legitimacy behind them, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously they're a lot more qualified than I am to be saying that. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, yeah, I don't know how much that actually helps you.
Mm-hmm.
But like for example, Draymond Green, you probably heard about this, but during All Star Weekend, they asked him about the format. He was like, this shit is trash. The rookie shouldn't be playing on Sunday, whatever. Like, and a lot of people were up in arms about that. But I was like, yeah, I kind of like that Draymond's being honest there and pulling no punches, even
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not sure I fully agree with his point. Because the NBA is trying something out. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, look, you got to try something out when his generation of players don't want to play. And, like it's his generation of players' fault at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And I mean, like I hate to say it, but a lot of this comes back to LeBron.
Mm,
Not necessarily in an All-Star game, but the fact that the dunk contest, he didn't
mm.
participate, and then he made it cool for the stars not to participate, and now you don't have any stars in the dunk contest at all.
I don't need stars in the dunk contest necessarily, but I need actual NBA players. No disrespect to Mac McClung, who's played 5 NBA games in his career.
I need stars. Like I
Like
need John.
all 4 of them to be stars or a
They don't
mix.
all, but I need John Morant for as reckless as he is as a dunker, for athletic as he is. How is he not in the dunk contest? Zion Williamson, how has he never been in the dunk contest? Like, just give us 1 year. Like, even as a rookie, you get like for those guys to not be in the dunk contest, it's an indictment on LeBron.
Yeah, because okay, I remember this. I
Mm-hmm.
was young, but I do
Mm-hmm.
remember because LeBron gets drafted. I'm like 9 years old. So I remember thinking at the time because I had just saw him
Mm-hmm.
at the McDonald's All American Dunk Contest
Yeah.
like months prior before he got drafted. And he's not like an amazing dunk contest dunker. What he does, he just bodies the rim. Like he just dunks mad hard.
Yeah.
But it's LeBron James and people want to watch that. And then we were getting teased. It was like, oh, he might do it this year. Nah, he's not going to do it. He might do it next year. Nah, he's not going to do it. It was a year in, year out thing. And then people just gave up by the time he went to Miami. And then even then he was still like, oh, I'm not really sure, whatever. And yeah, there's a decline there. Blake Griffin had like a great performance. That's one of the last really good ones. And obviously the back and forth with Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon. But like I even remember them trying shit out to the point where in 2013 or 14, they had this 3-on-3 dunk contest with like teams. It was awful. Like I think John Wall won it. That was terrible. That was like
Yeah.
the worst one that we've seen, I think.
I remember that one. That was the one with John Wall and I think Paul
Damian
George was in
Lillard.
it.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was rough.
And that one had stars. That one had stars. Like it was
Yeah.
almost all stars from what I remember, but the format was terrible. But to your point, like yeah, we don't really get stars doing this anymore. Like I would want like a star, a really talented rookie, and then like a couple of uber athletic, like Derrick Jones Jr. was,
Yeah.
like because that'd be fun to
Aaron
watch.
Gordon. I mean,
Yeah,
Zach LaVine was on the verge of. I mean, he's not necessarily a star, but he's on
he's
the
been an
verge of
all
star.
star. And
Yeah, I can live
yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like John Morant. I don't like John Morant tweeting out like, yo, Mac McClung might get me to dunk next year. I'm tired of dudes saying, yo, I might do it next year. Like, you're either gonna do it or you're not. Like, but don't tease Don't
Yeah,
tease the audience.
that's him living in a moment and getting excited. But we know, like, I think the problem is we live in an era where everything is all about money
Yes.
and everything is
Yes.
about branding. And guys are afraid to put their brand on the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys are afraid to say, you know what, I went out there and stunk it up, and now my brand took a hit. And I think that's why LeBron didn't do it, because he felt like, all right, Michael won it, Kobe won it. If I go out there and I lose, it's gonna be a bigger hit to my brand than if I win it. So it's just like I'm stepping in a big man's shoes, and it's just like I think that's the biggest problem I have with almost society now. Everything is
I
just so
agree.
brand oriented that guys are scared.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
We could do an hour on that. But we
Mm-hmm.
won't. I mean, look, there's a lot that goes into that. I think with dudes being afraid to lose is kind of what it comes down to. Not just in the dunk contest, but also like they put the rookies in there strategically for a reason. It's kind of like, yeah, we want you guys to play hard and not lose to the rookies. Like play like you're not going to lose to the rookies. And I felt like honestly, the actual basketball All-Star weekend was fine. The All-Star game rather. It was just, you had these big breaks in between where they had to do all this bullshit, and it was just ridiculous. Ryan chimes in with another comment here. Let's see what he got. I'd like to see them tell the players which dunk to do. Everyone has the same dunk each round. Eliminate someone each round and increase difficulty as a round pass. All classic dunks. I don't want to see them. I want to see guys be creative, because I remember one year, this was in like 2002. I think it was one of the years Jason Richardson won, and they had a wheel. People forget about this. They had a wheel that was like 90s Dr. J classics, all these different things. And when you spun the wheel, whatever came up, you had to do like some
Mm-hmm.
sort of version of that dunk. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, I
I,
didn't like that either. I want guys to be creative, and like we would have got none of the Mac McClung dunks if
yeah,
that were the case, or even like the Stephon Castle dunk. Like we don't get that dunk. I mean, he did what was it between the legs through off of a made shot.
yeah,
Like we don't get that. So it's like you got to allow guys to be creative. Like I still want to see somebody like take a selfie in the middle of a dunk.
yeah, yeah. Like I just don't like that people have to do all this work to be like, yo, ultimately, like the guys got to figure it out, and we shouldn't have to do the work for them.
Yeah,
That's all it kind of comes out to, which is annoying.
yeah.
All right, that's. I think we're good on the NBA. Let's transition to boxing.
Okay,
Where do I begin? Do you like the sport right now? Do you like where the sport is at? Let's just start there.
I do.
Okay, why
I
is
think the
that?
last year or so, the last year and a half, we've gotten good fights. The thing I don't like is I don't like the 130. I don't like what I'm seeing from the 135-pound division.
Lightweights for people who are not aware, but yes,
It's too many talented guys between 135 and 140 that just aren't fighting each other and are probably never going to fight each other.
yeah. I mean, so for people who don't know,
Mhm.
Keyshawn Davis just won a world title. Keyshawn Davis is supposed to be maybe the next big star at lightweight, let's say.
Mhm.
And he just won a world title on ESPN last week. And reports are already coming out like, yeah, he doesn't want to fight Shakur Stevenson. I don't even know if that's a report. I think he might have actually said that.
No, no, I mean, no, that's actual. So basically, Keyshawn was going to kill himself. Like he had like suicidal thoughts at some point, and like Shakur is like a brother to him.
Yeah.
So they're so close that I mean, they've been saying for months and months and months they're never going to fight.
Yeah.
So you got two of the four champions in the 135-pound division who aren't going to fight each other. And then you look at Lomachenko. It appears like he's on his way out.
I think he might unify with Keyshawn before that, though. I'm not going to lie. Top Rank can make that fight happen very
They
easily.
can make, I mean, top rank, well, they had 3 of the 4 champions before Shakur left. But
Yeah.
it's like, it seems like Keyshawn, I mean, Lomachenko's on his way out. And then, people like to blame Tank for him not fighting top tier competition
Mhm.
but I think a lot of it has to do with promotional companies. At the end of the day, he wanted to fight Lomachenko. He wants to fight
Yeah.
Lomachenko now, but Lomachenko doesn't want to fight him. And then I also think when it comes to Top Rank and PBC, a lot of times, unless the money is substantial, you're not going to see any one of these promotional companies look to make a fight outside of in-house fighters. Like it has to be a big, gigantic fight
Mhm.
for that to happen. And right now, even Shakur versus Tank is not a big fight. It's just it's a big fight amongst boxing fans and hardcore boxing fans, but it's not a big fight amongst the general public. Same thing with Keyshawn. Keyshawn, he's the next star, but he's not a star yet. So I think until you see the risk become worth the reward, Tank is going to continue to fight guys who are at PBC.
A lot of people get on Tank and PBC
Mm-hmm.
now for a couple different things. One is Tank's resume.
Mm-hmm.
Two, people have said, hey, why is he deciding to fight Lomachenko now as opposed to years earlier? Which I don't know who to blame for that, honestly. I'm not sure Lomachenko was actually running to fight Tank Davis back then either. But like if they're going to do that now, fine. And PBC is getting a lot of shit for, in general, the lack of cards that they've put out over the course of this Amazon deal, but also when you compare them to what's going on in Saudi Arabia, which is this whole other ordeal. Um, they're more active and they're putting out cards that look better comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you stand with sort of all of that? Because I think there's a lot there that people both are and aren't talking about, especially as it pertains to what's going on in Saudi Arabia.
I like the fact that we're seeing so many of these big fights, but I don't like the fact that they're in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like I
But
just,
we know why.
yeah, I mean, we definitely know why,
Yeah,
but
tourism.
it's just,
They want to increase
yeah,
tourism. As
like
some people would say, it's sports washing.
yeah. And then, I mean, also, I think some of it is a little bit overblown. Like, we're going to get Ryan versus Rolly.
Uh
Like,
huh.
it's like we try to pretend that, Turkish Al Ashiki is making all of the big fights, but some of these fights, I mean, like, Shakur is an 11-1 favorite against Floyd Schofield.
Who is barely a top 15 ranked in his weight class, according to the WBC, the title that he's fighting for.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, you got Shakur on the thing, on the card, but it's like, who is he fighting?
I
Like
got the car. I
Shakur,
got the car right here. I got the car right here. We can go through it one. But Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol rematch. That's a great fight,
yeah,
obviously. Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker. I think that's a good fight.
yeah,
And then you have, all right, Shakur Stevenson, Floyd Schofield. First of all, why is that not like its own? Like, why is that here on this card? I feel like they tried to overstack this card, but that's
yeah,
another
yeah.
issue.
But
Car-
that's another thing I don't like. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't need this many fights on one card. I don't want to be like I don't know if it's a short attention span, but I just think give us a couple prospects and then give us, two big fights and I'm good. Because it's just like this to sit there all day is kind of crazy to me. And I think you could spread it out and you could have more boxing all year as opposed to trying to give us everything in one day.
Well, Turk isn't a promoter. Like he's not a promoter. He's like the Tony Khan of boxing, where like Tony Khan, for people who don't know, runs All Elite Wrestling, and it's just like just wilding as a booker, like
Yeah.
just doing all the crazy shit, and has since slowed down, and people have turned on him. People haven't turned on Turk yet. There's boxing fans who like legitimately worship him on social media, which I
Mhm.
don't know how long that's gonna last because that's weird. But we're also in this era where people just they love rich people. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz. Like you put this on this card, and now you're having me make a decision. Like, all right, do I actually want to tune in for I don't know 6 straight hours to make sure I'm there for that fight? Also, Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov is interesting, even though I just saw Madrimov against Terrence Crawford and he lost that fight. And then you have like Zhilei Zhang, Ajit Caballel, Joshua Boise versus Callum Smith.
Mhm.
You're having me make these decisions where it's like, all right, what fights am I going to disrespect? Because like, I'm probably not going to sit there for like 5, 6 straight hours. Like, I'm just not.
Yeah.
Spread this out.
Yeah.
And then the PBC situation, like I asked you about that. Like, what do you think PBC is getting too much backlash, criticism, however you want to call it, just because of their, I guess, apparent inactivity?
Yeah. I think so. I always felt like PBC got a lot of backlash just because for two reasons.
Mm.
Floyd Mayweather is the biggest fighter associated with PBC, and then people don't like the fact that a black man has so much control in Al Heyman, and you put those two to the forefront, and I don't think people are truly objective about PBC at all. Now, when it comes to PBC right now with Amazon, I actually had a conversation with Steven Espinosa during the Super Bowl. I got a chance to meet him,
Mm.
and one of the things that he expressed to me was that Amazon, you know, they're not really that interested in boxing.
Yeah, it feels that
So
way.
it's like, it almost feels like the boxing was kind of like a test run for something else.
Amazon's been doing a lot of that. They like
Yes.
when they started doing sports,
Mhm.
and which they don't really do anymore in like a studio show type of way. That
Mhm.
felt very experimental, and yeah, it feels like Amazon is just trying shit,
And
seeing
it's
what
like
works.
they don't have the budget that they had at Showtime. Like Showtime was giving them all types of bread to be able to do things. So now you see that there hasn't been any non. I think was there only one non pay per view fight from PBC.
I think so. Yeah.
Um, yeah, thus far. And everything else has been pay per view, and it's like, so I don't know what. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody at PBC about what their long term plans are, but I think they're trying to figure it out like everybody else. I think they're trying to, like, this is a brand new landscape with cable television pretty much being out of it outside of the Top Rank ESPN deal, which is over in a couple of months, and I imagine that ESPN is probably going to re up with them because I don't think Top Rank is spending a lot of money,
You
but
do? I don't.
yeah, I think they are.
I don't think ESPN is gonna. Are you? You probably
I mean,
know better than I.
I haven't asked like anybody from Top Rank about this, but I just I made the assumption just because I don't think it's not something that is a costly product.
Yeah, but as a result, like, what's the incentive for ESPN to keep it going if they don't really care about boxing like that? I know they're more of a sports rights company than a content company, so maybe you want that, but it just seems like once I heard Top Rank could be going to the Zone as a rumor, I was like, oh, but it makes so much sense because Bob Arum is already like he's already
Yeah,
promoted multiple Saudi Arabia cards anyway.
yeah, but you know what? It's just more cheap content for ESPN,
Yeah.
and I don't think you want everything leaving.
Yeah, I look, to me, I don't want everything to be on the Zone
Yeah,
because I just don't like the Zone's presentation.
I hate it. I hate it. Oh
Like,
my god.
it's not my favorite broadcast. ESPN just like, even if I'm watching something one-sided on ESPN on Top Rank, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm watching a big thing. I feel like I'm watching a big production, a professional production is how I should probably word that.
Mhm.
Look, a lot of people get on Tim Bradley. I actually find him quite entertaining as a broadcaster. I don't agree with everything he says, but like, I like his energy. He makes me laugh. Some of the shit he says is ridiculous. Some of the shit he says is legitimate. As somebody who's been in the ring, been a champion multiple times, and all these different things. And I like Mark Kriegel. I like Bernardo Osuna, Joe Tessitore. The Zone, like, I'm a WWE fan. I'm very familiar with Todd Grisham. Not my
Yeah.
favorite play-by-play announcer, just objectively, like,
Mhm.
just not. And just the Zone as a product, like, I'm cool on seeing Frank Warren and Turkey Al Sheikh hold hands. I'm cool. I'm cool on seeing like just the just everyone just like doing whatever they do at the Zone and Matchroom. Like, I don't need to subscribe to that app. I don't want to have to subscribe to that app where they have all the different sports. But I do worry that Top Rank could just go there and then it's like, all right, great. So I'm gonna have to get the Zone now.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna see what happens. I mean, it's a couple of months, so it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I hate that boxing is pretty much off cable television at this point in time.
There was Front Office Sports did report that Turner could be a landing spot for Top Rank, which I think would be great. I don't. Do you think boxing could exist in a world where it's all on streaming? Like, do you think that would be damaging to the sport if nobody top rank PBC, nobody has like a proper TV deal, or are we just so far removed from TV where it might not that matter, where it might not matter
I,
that much?
I think we are far from TV. I think we're getting to that point to where almost everybody, there's so many people cutting the cord or have already cut the cord that I think streaming is the future. And I think we're at the point where it's just like it's probably not going to hurt boxing. I think the thing that really hurts it is just that you don't you have to seek it out.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not like in the past I might just be watching a movie on HBO and then it's like, oh shoot, it's some boxing on,
Right.
or it's like at least with Top Rank, you're watching you'll be watching NBA and then it's like, oh wow, all right, Keyshawn's fighting tonight.
Right.
So it's like unless you're seeking it out, it's like you're not going to find it, and I think that's where boxing is hurt.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that's good. And
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about the cutting the cord thing because I don't feel like people are happy with the TV situation, the streaming situation, because there are more people like, yo, wait, YouTube TV just went up again, Hulu just went up again. I pay for ad-free Hulu, and now they're throwing in ads in my pay-free thing. Everything's just going up, and there are all these mergers happening, which I don't think it helps the consumer very
Mm-hmm.
much. It definitely doesn't help the workers very much. So I'm not sure it could exist in a world without a TV deal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't think that many people have cable, I think they're like I question if we're gonna get to a point where we're running back to cable because all the cord cutting is getting too expensive anyway.
That's what it feels like. We've reached a point where cable was just the better, and so I just moved to Las Vegas. I don't have cable out here now, but I had cable back in Philly.
Mm,
Like I had cable because to me, and I still pay for my cable back in Philly. Like it's so crazy, but it's like basically you're paying for cable and you're spending the same amount of money for all of the streaming services.
yeah, yeah.
So it just makes sense to just have cable because like my cable package came with Netflix. My
Mm,
cable package came with Peacock. My cable package comes with what if I wanted to add NBA TV or anything else like that. All of that came with cable. So why am I paying for all of these things individually? And I'm probably going to need it anyway. So it's like, I mean, there's some people who say, all right, I'm not a sports fan. You're not a sports fan. You don't have to worry about, subsidizing everybody else's ESPN package. And you can just get HBO and you can get Netflix. But at some point, even if you're just not a sports fan, you're going to be paying for so many different packages that it just makes sense to have cable. So I think that's where I'm at with it.
yeah, I have YouTube TV, and then I have like Hulu, Netflix, a couple other things separately. Um, but I have thought about, all right, do I just need, especially as look, if you watch and cover multiple sports, like you need some measure of cable or something that has like all these different things. Like there are more people getting Fubo now, for example, because they
Mhm.
offer some of that stuff. And I just don't, I just think to bring it back to boxing, I feel like, yeah, not having HBO sucks. And, like I'm still not fully over like, what do you mean HBO like pulled out of boxing? And Showtime also at the risk of living in the past a little bit. But if ESPN were to be done with Top Rank and it doesn't land on a Turner and if it goes to the Zone, I do wonder what does that mean for PBC on Amazon if it doesn't feel like that's going to be a long-term thing anyway. Like is PBC going to have to go find a TV home? Because when PBC started,
Mhm.
I love the fact that they had PBC on CBS, on
Mhm.
NBC, on ESPN, even on Spike TV and Bounce TV, and all these different networks. And then
Mhm.
within a couple years, it was just PBC on Fox, PBC on Showtime, and that was kind of it. Like those the only two that kind of stuck it out for a while. And I think even that's better than hey, we're less active and going on Amazon, especially because what's happening with PBC. I feel like a lot of fighters are also just leaving their contracts
Yeah.
and signing with different entities, whether it be Queensberry or Matchroom or Top Rank.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you. I like it on network television. So, but I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's just the sign of the times. It truly is.
What's your biggest issue we'll end here. What's your biggest issue with boxing right now? The thing that you think needs the most fixing? I know you mentioned the 135ers earlier, but is there something beyond that? Is it just not even exclusive to that weight class either? Is it just like guys not fighting each other, period?
Yeah, it's just guys not fighting each other. I think you're seeing it because I think right now, for whatever reason, everybody's scared of taking out. Especially if you're a black fighter. If you're a black fighter, you don't want to take an L because it's going to hurt your brand so much. And you look at Devin Haney, like he literally lost to Ryan Garcia, who cheated and came in overweight, and his brand is like dog shit right now.
And he was celebrating when they voided the decision on his Instagram. So a lot of people don't find him to be the most likable either.
And it's like, I mean, like, and I hate to say it, but I'm looking at Devin Haney like a sucker because he's suing Ryan Garcia, and he's all the way in the right. He's all the way like this is good business. Like he should be suing Ryan Garcia, but it looks insane.
Yeah.
Like before this, his stock was in a place to where it's like you're looking at Devin Haney as a guy who could probably be. He's on his path to being a 3-division world champion. That single loss derailed his career against a guy who cheated.
Right.
So guys are afraid of that. And it's just, I think we just need to get boxing back to a place to where it's like, all right, guys can take an L. And I think the heavyweight division is there. You look at, this weekend, Daniel Dubois fight. He's had a career resurgence. Same with Joseph Parker, both of them. So it's like, we need to like we talk a lot about the four kings. What was it? Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. What was it? Teofimo Lopez. None of them have fought each other. Well, I mean, Ryan Garcia and has fought Tank and Haney, but it's like these guys should be fighting each other. It should be like, and it's just I think that's the frustrating thing. And it's like I don't know if that's ever going to change.
I think like the fight I want to see the most is Tank versus Shakur. I think that's the one that the sport needs the most.
You know what's so crazy? I don't want to see that fight.
Why not?
Because Tank is so low output and Shakur is so defensively minded.
Low output
it's gonna be boring.
Probably. But I still want to see it.
I want to see it, but it's just like out of all of the fights, I think like I want to see the best fight the best, but I know it's going to be it's going to be a letdown.
But I want to see because Gervonta Davis doesn't actually get enough credit for his actual boxing ability. I think people just look at him as like a mini Deontay Wilder, where he's not that. He's actually really smart. Yeah. And he'll give up rounds, but there's a calculation behind that. I want to see if he catches Shakur Stevenson. And if he does, what happens? Like that's really it. Like the entire fight could be boring. But if he knocks him out in round 10 out of nowhere, I'm like, okay, that's what I came to see if he can do that. Or if Shakur just sort of tit-tats his way to an underwhelming decision and Gervonta Davis can't quite figure it out.
Actually, I want to see Haney versus and I mean, that's not going to happen now because Haney's he's so big now.
It's going to be a welterweight, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he came in at like a junior. He came in like against the Garcia fight. I mean, one of those fights. Matter of fact, what was the fight before Garcia?
Regis Prograis?
Yeah, he came in at a middleweight. But I wanted to see Haney versus Tank. That's the fight I really wanted to see.
I think Tank could fight beyond 135. It just doesn't want to for whatever reason. But I think he could do that. And I think also, so you mentioned fights that people like fights that they don't want to have basically because guys being afraid to lose, so to speak. I agree with that. I also do wonder, is it just going to take Saudi money for these dudes to actually like put it on the line? Like, is it just going to be money? Like now we're back to the NBA conversation where it's like, all right, how much money do you need to like put it on the line? And boxing is a lot more dangerous, obviously. So there's different stakes involved. But I think what's going to happen is like, it's going to take so much money for these things to happen that Turk is just going to make it happen. And then it'll stop at some point. And then people are just going to be, it's going to be like the NBA where dudes are just overvaluing themselves. And then we end up not getting the fights again anyway. because no one wants to meet this insane number for somebody who's not even championship level.
I can totally see that happening. I really can.
Yeah, I think that's sort of my concern. What's the other biggest fight that you want? Or what are the main fights that you want to see in 2025?
What do I want to see? What do I want to see? I mean, we're not going to see Canelo versus what's my guy's name?
David Benavidez.
We're not going to see that.
No,
but I mean, I would like to. I would like to see Benavidez fight the winner out of Bivol. Better Beef. Actually, who do you like in that fight?
I like Bivol the first time. I kind of feel like I still like him this time. I kind of feel like he won the first fight, but they didn't give it to him.
Yeah.
115, 113 was very close. I could see a draw, but I think if Bivol wins, then you got to do the trilogy before you go to Benavidez. I think you have to do the third fight. You know,
I think
I think I was just gonna say I think even from a betting perspective, like I would look at, all right, are they gonna just give it to Bivol to milk the third fight?
I'm afraid that this is Floyd versus Castillo, or Ward versus Kovalev, where it's like the better fighter. He won the first fight easy. I mean, he won the first fight, and maybe he shouldn't have won it. And in the second fight, he kind of puts a stamp. That's what I think this is.
So you think Beterbiev wins by more?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because he's older now, too.
He's older, but the fact that this fight is happening so quickly, and the fact that, like, had this happened end of the year, I might be like, all right, you know what? Damn, he could get over overnight. But the fact that it's only been like 6 months.
I think with Dimitri Bivol, though, here's the issue I have with backing him confidently this time. He's gonna have to take more chances because ultimately what lost him the first fight was the last 3 rounds where Beterbiev, even though Bivol was more efficient the entire fight, he was not busy enough those last 3 rounds. That's what swung it.
Yeah. And if you go back to the 7th round, Bivol has stunned Beterbiev.
Yeah.
And then Beterbiev, he hit him with a shot, and he was never the same for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary, because I think, and that's why I said this could be Kovalev versus Ward too.
You might be onto something there. The only thing I'm worried about is just all right, how much is he going to age from fight to fight? Because in boxing, it just happens.
Yeah,
like you look at a guy, they could look one way, and you could say, hey, Beterbiev looked a little bit older in that last fight anyway, because the output, like, it took a while to get there or whatever the case may be, because I thought Bivol started really well and then Beterbiev got going later. I do wonder in this fight, all right, are we just going to see Beterbiev not have it? Because that could happen to older guys. Bivol's not young either, but he's significantly younger than Beterbiev is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're talking 6 years.
Yeah, like, so that's real interesting to me. I don't know what's gonna happen, for lack of a better way of putting it. But I also think with Beterbiev, like, could he potentially stop Bivol if Bivol is forced to take more chances? Because he's going to have to if it's judged similarly, that, you know, in the way that the first fight was.
Yeah. That's a scary proposition. It's definitely.
Do you think Bivol could actually hurt him enough?
I don't.
But that's the question. Like, if Bivol can't hurt him, how are you going to win this fight?
And that's why I like Beterbiev.
Like, he can counter, he can tag him, but I'm not sure he could significantly hurt him is my concern. Whereas Beterbiev, I mean, look, Bivol's got a chin, but I don't know if he could stand up to Artur Beterbiev. There's a reason why he was circling and moving around the way he was the first time. That's what he should be doing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely going to be interesting.
Are you taking Beterbiev officially? Are you taking him by knockout?
No, I'm not taking him by knockout. I think here's the one thing I noticed. Anytime a fighter, like, a lot of times when these big knockout punchers step up in class, you don't tend to see the knockout.
Yeah.
So it's like that's my concern, and that's why I'm kind of having trouble picking this. But I mean, we know better Beef. I mean, he has that pop. He has crack.
What would it take for Bivol to win this?
He's gotta outbox him for 12 rounds and just avoid. He's got to avoid. He's pretty much got to not make a mistake for 12 rounds. He's got to be Floyd versus Canelo.
I don't know if he can do both. That's the thing. Like, because you have to take more chances.
Yeah,
but you're gonna make a mistake at some point. Like, Better
yeah.
Beef's too good.
and that's why I'm picking Better Beef. Like, it's just I can't. Like, there's just no way I could just see him having the perfect fight for 12 rounds. So yeah, I'm riding with Better Beef.
I'm not making an official pick yet, but I mean, you're definitely not, because I'm like leaning Bivol, and you're definitely nudging me into like the Better BF direction, because I usually in a boxer puncher versus counter puncher situation, I usually like the counter puncher. Like, to use Ward Kovalev as an example, like, I thought Andre Ward eked it out the first time and obviously won the second time. And going into that fight, I was like, I would take Andre Ward because he just has more ways to win.
Yeah.
This one though, like, it's tough. Stylistically, I would still lean Bivol, but like, if it's judged the way the first fight was, then that means Bevel's going to have to take more chances, and that means he's at risk of getting caught, and that's where I'm not as confident in him as I was for like Floyd versus Canelo, Andre Ward versus Kovalev, or any of those other examples where like you have the counter puncher facing the guy who's going to be more active with their hands. So that's just kind of my lead on it. You were going to say something?
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to
you. Last thing on boxing. Tank versus Lamont Roach. This is not a card I'm super excited about. I'm planning on going to the fight. I'm planning on covering it. A lot of people are pissed off that Tank is taking this matchup, where I'm kind of like, I mean, I want to see him fight better competition too. I don't know who to blame for this, but I like Lamont Roach, but I don't think this is the time for this.
So I like the fight when it was supposed to take place in December. I thought it was supposed to be a keep busy fight.
Yeah.
When they said Lomachenko didn't want to fight with Tank, I thought this was a solid stay busy fight. But the fact that we're waiting this long for another Tank fight, it's disappointing. Like, I don't think Lamont Roach has any chance of beating Tank. No. This is basically a fight that this is a Tank showcase fight. It's Hulk Hogan versus a jobber. And I mean, no disrespect against Lamont Roach, but you're bringing a guy up from a smaller weight class who's just never been on this level. And I just think, like, I'm always excited to see Tank. If Tank fought 2 more times this year, cool. But he's not going to fight 2 more times.
And he's done in retirement.
Yeah, so that's the issue with this one.
I'm not excited about it. It feels like, as someone I'm not down on Tank the way other people are. Like, I think there's a level of greatness that I want to see him achieve, though. And fighting like Hector Luis Garcia, who I thought was underrated, Lamont Roach, Leo Santa Cruz, who's really good at the time, but punching above his weight. Like, I want to see him fight guys in the lightweight division. Like, I thought Frank Martin, I was good with that. I was like, that makes a lot of sense, even though Frank Martin wasn't great in his last performance. He was ranked, all these different things. You're bringing up another champion from 130 when I want to see you fight some of the guys we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of like, because I feel like I know what's going to happen. I feel Shakur's going to fight, I don't know, William Zepeda. If William Zepeda beats Tevin Farmer, he's going to fight William Zepeda. Keyshawn Davis, I'm sure top rank. If Raymond Murataya beats dude from Russia whose name is escaping me, then Keyshawn Davis versus Raymond Murataya is right there. And Loma, I don't know what he's going to do. He's not going to fight like a super difficult fight unless it's Keyshawn Davis right off the bat. And then where does that leave Tank? And then I'm kind of like, this is my issue with this weight class.
Yes, it's brutal.
But we'll see. All right. We'll end it there. Thank you for Raheem for joining.
Mm,
It's a lot of fun. And I'll bring you back because I'm sure we're gonna have more to talk about, especially as the playoffs near. NBA playoffs
no,
should be interesting this year.
no doubt, man. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. All right. We'll be back with more on the channel very soon, including another live stream Thursday. And the film studies are up right now for Joseph Parker, Daniel Dubois, and for Better BFB Vault 2. So go watch that. Thank you for watching.